Hello everyone and welcome to yet another Zozin session. How about that? On our Discord server we have a channel called Dirty Code, which is dedicated to posting not safe for work pieces of code. Some time ago, I think on October 3rd, a member of the server with the username Olive posted this very interesting piece of code, which is in Python, obviously, right? And it does, like, it generates a random numbers and performs different operations on those numbers, and that is a very interesting piece of code. So let's take a look at it. I'm gonna create a file not safe for work py, right? And I'm gonna copy paste this piece of code there. Obviously, running random pieces of code on your PC is kind of a dangerous thing, but I'm a trained professional. I know how to do that. Don't do that stuff. Don't repeat that stuff at home. All right, so I'm gonna try to now run this entire thing. And it says boobies, which is obviously not safe for work. And that's why it was posted in not safe for work channel. So it's very interesting because it generates random numbers, but then it composes them into like a readable message, and it does that every time, so it's repeatable. So the way it achieves that is by always setting the seed to a fixed number, right? So in majority of the languages, and Python is not an exception, the random number generators are not really true random number generators, they're pseudo-random number generators. That means they basically generate you know, sort of determined sequence of numbers, but it's so complex, the process that is used is so complex and so unpredictable that it feels like random, right? So that's kind of the point. And seed basically allows you to set the current state of the random number generator, and then the next states are sort of determined. That way you can always generate the same random sequence of numbers. We can even explore that idea. So let me do something like main.py. I'm gonna import random. And in here, I'm going to just try to generate like 10 random numbers in range 10. I think this is how you do that. I think this is how we program in Python. Random range. How do you do that? Rand range. RAM range. 256, right? So we'll just like do it like that. And if I try to run this entire thing, right? It generates a sequence of numbers, but every time I run the script, it generates a different sequence of number, right? But if I set the seed, right, how do you set the seed? You just do that, random seed 69 for 20, that sequence of random numbers is going to be the same no matter how many times I run it, but it's still going to be a random sequence, it's just going to be the same. So this is basically the first idea in this trick. So the sequence of random numbers is always the same, right? And on top of that, we use these random numbers to pull out the information out of here. Right, I think this is how it's basically done. So essentially we're taking this string, we turn it into array of bytes, right? We turn it into array of bytes and we iterating those bytes, right? We iterating those bytes, and then we do random range 2. We do random range 2, basically returning us 0 or 1. And depending on whether it returns 0 or 1, we either include this character into the final string or not include. So essentially we are filtering out some of the characters in here based on the random number generator, which is fixed by a seed. Which once you know these two ideas, it's actually pretty easy, relatively easy to come up with your own thing. And that's exactly what I did in this conversation. I basically wrote like a similar code. The only thing I replaced is the seed and the string that you're filtering out, and I basically put a custom message in there, right? So let's actually go in here. I'm going to rename this thing to, let's say, for work 01, and then let's say for work 02, and this is where I'm going to put my code, right? And if I try to run and not say for work 02, it will say Zozy was here. So That's pretty cool. So in today's video, I would like to sort of reinvent the way I came up with this seed and this sequence of numbers, just to explain how it's usually done. So if you want to try it for yourself, feel free to pause the video and try it for yourself. But I'm going to just go ahead and try to come up with that approach yet again. Luckily, this conversation happened like several months ago, right? And I already forgot how exactly I did that. So it's almost going to be almost like a first attempt, but yeah. So essentially, my memory is so bad that that every time I implement something, it feels like a first. So maybe that's why I re-implement the same shit over and over again, because my memory is so bad. Right, and it always feels like the first time. Anyway, so let's actually go ahead and try to come up with something. Okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Let me see. So I'm gonna actually open the first original solution, and what we want to do is probably set the seed somehow. Right, but do we want to set it in where? So let's come up with a function, generate bytes for a seed. And we're going to pass a seed in here. I'm going to use like basically type annotations, right? Even though Python interpreter CPython ignores these type annotations, but I'm going to use them for documentation purposes. So, and what we want to get from here is probably bytes, right? Which we can then convert to a string, and yeah, so from hex and whatnot hex. Okay, so what's going to be the next thing? The next thing we're going to set the seed 314, so we're gonna just set the seed, and then I need to think. Maybe I also need to accept a message, right? I also need to accept the message that we're going to be generating. So this is going to be the message that we're accepting, and in this specific message, I want to just iterate the characters, right? So this is going to be the characters in that specific message. I wonder, is that how I can do that though? So can I just say C in message and it will iterate the characters? I think this is how I can do that. Let me try to run the entire thing. So I need to run the Python process. It runs the Python 2. Who uses Python 2 in 2022? Am I right? Fellow Zoomers? So if I have something like C in hello, and then I just do print C, it does iterate character by character. Perfect. Cool. And interestingly enough, basically we have a byte array, right? We have a byte array, and depending on the result of the random number generator, rand range, depending on the result of this thing, we either include that byte or filter it out, right? So let me see. We only include it if it's equal to 1, essentially, right? So if this thing is true, this byte is going to be included. That means we need to just use that character. So we could probably want to convert it to a code. Is there something like code for a particular character, or maybe ORD? Yeah, some of the languages call that ORD, and I don't really know what it stands for, but I know that usually it takes the character and returns you the code of that character. So the first time I saw this kind of functions is in Pascal, right? And a lot of languages copied that, and I don't remember what ORD means. Maybe it's something with ordering. Maybe that way, like in some languages, you can't compare characters, but you can compare their ORDs or whatever the hell it is. Like, I don't know what ORD stands for. I'm really sorry. I don't know anything about programming. So here we're going to just produce the ORD, and if the random number generator returned, I think the editor is confused with the indentations, and if it returned 0, we can just pick an absolutely random value, right? An absolutely random value, but it's kind of difficult to pick an absolutely random value because if we just use the random number generator, it will screw up its state, right? So if I try to do something like random rand range, and 256, it will screw up. So on the next iteration, so it's not going to be what we essentially expect in here. Or is it going to be what we expect in here? Maybe. Probably. So I'm not quite sure if this is something super important. Right, but we'll get to that later, right? So there is also this thing, and I'm not really sure if it is super important, if it is super important, because 256 is essentially 100000, and you're XORing that with characters which will not really modify anything, if I understand correctly. I think it will not. Well, I mean, it's random. It's a random number, so yeah, whatever. For now, I think we're gonna just return like 0. So the bytes that we're going to be filtering out are going to be 0 bytes, are going to be equal to 0. And let's see how it goes. So I'm going to do generate bytes for seed. I'm going to provide the seed 69420, and the message I want to say is hello world, right? Hello world, maybe without any special new lines. So if I try to run this entire thing, we should see these bytes. So it's not equals. It's actually like that. Yeah. I see. I do remember how to do that. Invalid syntax. Oh yeah. So I'm sorry. I'm a veteran Python developer. I've been programming in Python before Python 3 existed, so I have very old reflexes. Okay, I'm a veteran Python developer. All right. So this is what we have. So which is kind of weird, isn't it? I would expect that we would make a little bit more iterations, right? So we have exactly the amount of bytes as we have the amount of characters, which is not particularly correct, I think. I think it is not particularly correct. I think we have to advance the character only if we hit 1 in this random number generator. So let's actually have some sort of index, right? So it's going to be I, and initially it's equal to 0. And while I is less than the length of the message, right? Length of the message, we're going to do this entire thing, right? And instead of C, we're going to be using actually message I, something like this. And we're going to only increment I when we hit true on this random number generator. There we go. So let's see what's going to happen. So this way we have way more characters in here. Of course, we want to turn all of that into like a byte array, right? So maybe we want to have something like result bytes. And instead of printing everything, we're going to be essentially appending, like result append, and then result append. And in here, we just want to print whatever we generated. Right, that's what we want to do. So there's no such thing as append for bytes. Which is rather interesting. So I think this is because it has to be byte array, if I remember correctly, because it's modifiable. Yeah. And it returned none because I never returned that thing in here. And by the way, because of that, I want to say byte array. Might as well actually start using MyPy just to check the types, just in case. It's taking some time because it's written in Python. So now here's the thing. So here is the thing, and I wonder if we can turn this to hex, right? Because in the original thing in here, we have bytes from hex, so there should be something like bytes to hex, if you know what I mean, right? Bytes to hex. Can I do something like that? Right, and if I try to run that, so bytes doesn't have. What about byte array? It doesn't have that. So maybe str has something like 2 hex, or maybe you just have a hex. That could be also this thing. Cannot be interpreted as an integer. Okay, so Python byte array to hex. I don't remember how to do that. Byte array to hex string. Okay. str format. Hexilify. Of course, the consistency of the naming is beautiful. Well, not really. It's some sort of like a third-party thing, I think. Really? There's no like easy hex method of the bytes. Right, okay. So if I just do hex, then it should work. Of course. To convert, like one-way conversion is from hex, but in the opposite direction, it's not to hex, it's just hex. Very intuitive. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Cool. So yeah, here is the string that we've got in here, right? Here is the string that we've got in here, but I don't think it's gonna work that well, right? So I can just grab this string, probably, and just maybe put it into the algorithm, and I don't think it's gonna work that well. So let me take the original algorithm. So here is the string we are using. So I wanna standardize the seed somehow. So let's actually set the seed like so. Right, so this is going to be the seed for which we're generating everything, and then we're going to set the seed in here. Right, so it's probably not going to work because we have more calls to random number generators and stuff like that, so I don't think it's going to work that well. I also don't fully understand. So, so for each character, yeah, I see. So for each character, we always call random range to 156. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. All right, so if I try to do that, as you can see, it prints a complete gibberish, right? So it prints complete gibberish, and this is because of this additional call to random range to 156 that we're making in here. Right, so, and I'm not sure if, this thing keeps debating my brain. This thing, in fact, keeps debating my brain, and what I'm thinking is... So we only perform this call when this call returns true. When this call returns false, this thing will probably never be executed. So it makes sense to actually like do this thing in here, right? Do this thing in here, and this is going to be some sort of like a key, right? This is going to be some sort of like a key. And the cool thing about Xor, I think the cool thing about Xor is that you can apply it. Yeah, it has a property. It has a following property: A XOR B, and then XOR B again equal A. Right, so this is a very interesting property, and essentially we can just take this key and apply it like this. So the next time we apply the same character when we decode this entire thing, it will just remove that key. Right, so I think we can do stuff like that, yeah. Might as well even just do something like this to make it a little bit more readable, hopefully. And that's pretty poug, isn't it? I think that is it, actually. So, yeah, well, let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. I'm gonna just try to run this entire thing, and it didn't actually work, surprisingly. Maybe not. Does the order matter? I think order doesn't matter, right? It never mattered. Okay, so what's up with that? What's up with that? So we take this character, then if it's a random range, oh yeah, I know what's up, because I'm an idiot, because I need to update the string, of course. Right, I need to update this goddamn string. So maybe I can automate that, so it basically constructs the string for us or something like that, but we'll see, I don't know. And there you go. So we actually created a string and a seed that prints a random message. We can actually change the message. We can say foo bar, right? We can say foo bar. So it probably would make sense to, I don't know, maybe print it as a code. Maybe the entire thing should essentially print the code that you can then run. I think that's actually a very interesting idea. Can I just print multi-line stuff? I think I should be able to. Right, there we go. And then can I have multi-line like f strings? Okay, so looks like I can do that. So I'm gonna put this stuff in here. Right, so, and in here we're gonna use seed. And in here we are essentially just using this. Right, and I wonder if it's gonna like produce the actual representation. So let me give it a try. Seed is not defined. Are you sure about that, buddy? Are you sure about that? Oh, this is because I need to remove that stuff. There we go. So it kind of generated the code, right? But it didn't use the representation thing in here. So let me go ahead and just put wrapper in here, like so. And there we go, we have a representation. So after that, we can just take this code and maybe put it into the interpreter. And that didn't work because we also need to import, random, right? We import in random. So if I try to do it like that now, and I can copy paste this code in here, and there we go, it prints foo bar. So that's actually pretty cool. So now we have a generator of that, of this kind of stuff. So in here we can also maybe encode a message, right? So I'm going to save it like this. So this is going to be foo bar, and this one is going to be it's going to be message, yeah, right, that's right. Now, if I do something like this, I can customize the message, saying something like Zosie was here, right, and it generates a completely different code, and I can put that code in here, and it prints Zosie was here. So we just wrote a generator for this kind of codes, right? And you can choose whatever seed you want, right? And you can choose whatever message you want. But there is an obvious problem. The ignored bytes are 0, 0, which makes it too obvious, I think. I think it kind of makes it too obvious. We need to fill the filtered out bytes with maybe random garbage, right? So we can try to do something like a random rand range 256, but that messes with the state of the random number generator, right? Because we don't expect to generate anything when this thing returns 0, right? We don't expect that, and because of that, this produces an interesting code. But if you try to run this entire thing, right, if you try to run it, it will generate gibberish, right? So it kind of said zods, right, but it doesn't make any sense. So I suppose maybe for that specific gibberish, right, for that specific gibberish, we want to use a different random number generator. And I wonder if you can create your own like separate random number generator with a separate state. So let me actually see. I'm going to take a look at help random, and let's see what do we have in there. So there's a class random, right? So random number generator based class used by bound module function, used to instantiate instances of random to get generators that don't share state. That's precisely what we want. Can I do something like garbage random and use some sort of seed in here? Okay, well, I need to import that thing from random, import from random, import random, right? And let's try to do that one more time. And in garbage, I would presume we also have this rand range 256, and okay, and that should not share the state with a global random number generator. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Garbage random, and in here we can use whatever seed we want. Like I'm just gonna put some stuff in here, and then I'm gonna put garbage in here, rand range 256. Like we just need to fill them in with something, right, to hide the fact that this entire thing is actually simple. Right, so I can try to do it like that, and of course I need to Do that from random import random. Okay, so but that is not going to work because now we also have to import this thing. So I have a following idea. So this is the garbage, right? And let's create something like data, right? And random is going to be seed, right? And every time we do a random somewhere here, we're going to replace those randoms with data. So this is a generator for the data, and the second generator is for the garbage, right? So for sort of padding or whatnot. So here we use the predefined user seed, and here we can use whatever actually because they don't share the states. All right, so if I try to run that, and that looks good, as you can see, right? So there's no like 0 bytes in here. It looks random. It looks good. And if I put that thing in the in Python, we have a message in here. So that's pretty cool. So another interesting thing to notice in this specific example is that all of these things are capitalized. Maybe this is something that we want to do in here. Can I do it for the strings? Like, can I do to upper, or is it called somehow upper? Oh, there we go. So that means in here, we want to do not only hex, but also upper, right? So there we go. So everything is uppercase now, and I can try to copy paste this in here. And furthermore, I can customize a new message. Welcome to the Zozin session. That will produce a relatively big, you know, sequence of bytes, but maybe it's going to be worth it. We'll see. Yeah, there we go. So it's actually relatively big. But if you try to run this entire thing, it says welcome to the Zozin session. Okay, so there we go. We just wrote the generator of such code, right? So if you ever wanted to like make your own piece of code that looks quirky and weird but still produces readable message, you can use this generator. I'm going to put it in Gist and also put the link in the description, right? So maybe you want to share that with your friends, right? Maybe you want to surprise your friends and stuff like that. So not safe for work, I don't know. Let's call it something like secret message. Secret message. Let's put underscore in here, and this is going to be pi. So your secret message, and I'm gonna put this entire thing in here, right? There we go. I wish you could see the button to post this entire thing. Here it is. So let's create a secret gist, right? For a secret code generator, we're gonna use a secret gist, and I'm gonna put this entire thing in the description, right? So this is basically the source code. All right, I guess that's it for today. Thanks everyone who's watching me right now. I really appreciate it. It was very, very fun. It was super fun to like rediscover this technique again, and yeah, try it for yourself. Maybe come up with a completely different approach. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and I see you all next time. Love you.